Okay, it is now preparing. Got it. Okay, we are live streaming. Hello, Holistic Empowerment Community. I am here today with the fabulous Naomi Fox-Reyna, and she has become an awesome mentor and friend to me over the past few months. Hello, Naomi.
Hello. So excited to be here with you and your amazing group.
We are so excited to have you. I know that I think that your area of expertise and all that you have to give to this world is very much in alignment with our holistic group. As we definitely want to keep God at the center, but I shouldn't say but, and explore all the gifts and information and tools that he has blessed us with as we seek our healing journey and figuring out our higher self and all that goodness. So I'm going to start out actually by saying like how I found you and everything. I don't even know if you've heard the story. So for me, I've always been interested in astrology. Like I remember even as a teenager, like I would always, this is before internet and all that stuff. Like I would read the Sunday paper because they would have the funnies in them, the comics. And I would always kind of peek at the horoscopes and was like, I feel like there could be relevance there, but it never sat right with me. It was always off a step or two, but I knew that there was something there, but I could never put my finger on it. And so I just kind of always kept that in the back of my head. I never really sought it out, but I'm like, I know that these planetary, the moon and the star, like I know that they have an influence on us. And I could feel that in my soul, but I never found a source that felt that they were sharing it in a God-fearing way, in a way that aligned with my beliefs and in a way that was true and light-filled. And when Ali Duzette started talking about astrology, someone that I greatly admire, she's just such a gifted person on many levels. It was just like, she introduced, I was like, and so I just kind of started following you, a little Facebook stalking a little bit, maybe not really. It was all just like, hey, let me join the group. Let me see what you're talking about. Of course, like every time astrology was talked about, it was very holistic. Oh, hold on. Let me turn my phone down. It was always like a foreign language. And I count myself as a pretty intelligent individual. And I'm a very self-taught, self-learning person. But for the life of me, I could not figure it out. And so when you came along and you're sharing about this program, I was like, oh, and now I know that that's my human design, my sacral center saying, but I could feel that like in my soul, God was like, Nicole, you need this in your life. And so I was very excited to do it. And it's an investment of a program. Like this isn't just a chump change program because it is packed with so much value. Like I have wasted thousands of dollars on other programs that were just like, bleh. They were just, this one, I am so happy for every single dollar that was spent on it because I feel like it has blessed me in so many ways. And so it was funny because like when I first saw you share your program, I was like, no, not yet. And then it was one day I saw it posted and was like, today's the day. And it was just like, it was as strong. And it was literally like right before, I think it was just a few days before the program started. And that's kind of the timing that we're at now, right, Naomi?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Naomi is just a gift from heaven. She is just a light, and she is just a powerhouse of a brain and a heart all wrapped into one, and so divinely connected. And Naomi, tell us more about your program, like how you got to discovering and kind of developing your own little branch of astrology.
Oh, I love this. And I just love your story. I'm a little extra emotional today for whatever reason. So I'm just so touched, and I really, really appreciate everything you said. And I'm like you, growing up, I would look at like the horoscopes in the newspaper and be like, like kind of always drawn to them, but also like, it's not quite like you could say that about anybody type of a skepticism. And then turns out horoscopes are created to sell newspapers, and they have very little to do with actual, like, the science of astrology. And so I got into all of this because I met somebody who showed me astrology in a light-filled way, and it changed my whole life. And she was able to explain things to me that I had no other explanation for. It has introduced a more profound way for me to love myself and to like claim who I am and release what I'm not than anything that I've ever found, because it's objective instead of subjective. It's not like, oh, let me answer these questions on a personality quiz according to what I want to be seen as. And so you get possibly a sort of accurate result, but that if you've ever taken the same quiz like years apart, you're probably getting different results, right? And so I love this because it just is. It's an expression of what your highest potential self can be, if you want to choose into it. And if people aren't living true to their chart, if they're not living true to their astrology, you're pretty much always going to see a pattern of anxiety and distortion and unhappiness like trailed throughout their life, like broken relationships, difficult struggles, alignment catastrophes everywhere. And so I love this because it's like, okay, if you just want to skip all that and just get into the groove of like what you're divinely created to be, that is what astrology is. And I have always been a very God-centered person. That's always been something that's been important to me, especially when I was going through a divorce. And it really became like the only source of like mainstay for me. Like everything else was tumultuous. Everything else was up for question. And so I really just learned to truly hear the voice of God in my life. And so that was after that point was when I was introduced to astrology. And I believe that's because I knew I could trust myself to listen more clearly to what was truly right for me and not. And when I got into it, I was like, this is amazing, changed my life, just one conversation. And then as I tried to go out and learn, similar to you, like it's very overwhelming. It's a whole new language. I was always pretty good at math, but this is like, it's like sort of a little bit of math, but like a whole lot of other things. And it just was kind of overwhelming, but I couldn't stop trying to learn it because something in me just knew that I needed to comprehend this in a really powerful way. And I trudged through and I picked through the different places that have information that wasn't light filled. And it was like, it felt like, when you go to a thrift store and you're like sorting through the bargain bin at the thrift store and you're like trying to pull out like the good stuff. Like that's how it felt when I was learning astrology. And it was just like, this won't do. And so I started, doing sessions and I was helping people. And again, people invited me. They were like, could you please teach how to do astrology the way you do it? Because I've never seen anybody do it the way you do it. Could you please teach it? And so I started teaching it. And then it was like, could you please certify people, random people that weren't even talking to each other were coming up to me and saying, could you please certify in this? I want to do astrology the way you do it, but I need more than just understanding my own. I want to understand how to understand others. And that's really how we got here. And so we are right on the steps of opening the 5th cohort that I've done. I believe we've had 84 students go through this. 22 officially certified light-filled astrologers exist in the world, which is amazing. Such a huge dream come true, because I really just believe the world needs more light-filled astrologers, because it's such a potent way, in addition to all the modalities of healing, to be able to get in and just see, here is your map. You don't have to do all these other lessons that other people need to do. These are your lessons. These are your struggles. These are your strengths. And you can just focus on that and skip so many steps in your healing process and just get right to it.
I totally agree. And that's something that I loved in the program, is that the order that you introduce things in and the way that you do it is such an easy and digestive way. And in the format that you have it, like where we can go through and access the lessons over and over, like if something didn't click, we can easily go back and re-listen to it until it clicks, right? And for me, understanding every week, it was like epiphany after epiphany after epiphany about myself, about my husband, about my children. And it was just like so validating. And anytime I and I'm still like, I did get certified. So high five for me.
Yes. High five for you, for sure. It's a big deal.
But I'm still a baby, right?
You're
I'm
at the beginning of your journey, even still.
Exactly. But it's like, anytime I look at a chart, and I definitely want to be in a place where the divine downloads are coming, right? Because I think, in my belief system, it's like Heavenly Father is trying to like use this pattern to teach us something, right? And we have to be in a good place where we can interpret it in a light-filled way. And so when I've done that, and people like, it happens every single time, that was so validating, especially when we've gone through struggles or we're doing something that like it feels right, but when you say it out loud, it sounds wrong. I was looking at a gal's chart when I was in Utah, and she had, what was it? She had Scorpio. No, her North Node was in Scorpio, right? It was almost right by the Libras, right at the beginning of Scorpio. And I still don't know about degrees and stuff, so don't ask me numbers. But I looked at it, and, typically with Scorpio, I'm going to talk about, okay, you need to be very honest and go very deep. And, you might be a little bit, keep things really close to you and not let stuff out. But it was like death. This is about being comfortable and good with death. And I was like, this might sound really weird, but that's what came to me. And I said it to her. She's like, are you kidding me? She's like, I am literally in a class right now about helping people transition out of this life. And I love it. She's like, everybody thinks I'm weird for doing this. I'm like, no, this is like, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we were both
here for.
But really, like, it gives you patterns, and it gives you those patterns. And even my husband, he's not into energy, and but he's 100% supportive. And it was interesting when I was like, I kind of hesitate to talk about astrology with him, but he said one day, he's like, well, Nicole, I don't think God would have put all of these planets around us for no purpose.
Right.
And I was like, that was the sexiest thing you've ever said to me.
To the bedroom.
Like, okay, tonight is your night. But really, like, it does. It's like, why would God put all of these planets there for zero purpose? Like, just to have a little bit of twinkling light in the sky that doesn't really give much light. Like, there's a purpose there. And I think that the approach that you've taken and the approach that you teach really helps us understand, get closer to his purpose, right? And that light-filled way, and the true patterns that are there.
Yes. Oh, amen. Hallelujah. I love everything that you just said so much. And I grew up in a very scientific family, a very academic family. Like, I have a sister who is a computational astrophysicist, and a brother who's a rocket scientist, and then, a sister who's a medical doctor, and a brother who's a chiropractor. And and that's not even all of them. I come from an incredibly academic family. And I was talking with my brother, who's the rocket scientist, about astrology, because I became an astrologer among this highly academic science, conservative Christian family. Like, I'm super, super just doing my own thing, right? And my brother was saying, thankfully, he's enough of a man of science to be humble enough to admit when he finds evidence that shows that he might have been wrong about something. And he found evidence that there is measurable scientific differences based on the planetary alignments here on Earth. And that there is an impact that is able to be detected. Like, we finally have the types of machines and everything that can tap into these frequencies. And so he's like, I think I just found scientific proof that astrology has merit. And I was like, I think that's my most favorite thing you've ever said. And so for him to be a physicist and focus on space and all of that was a very interesting discussion between the two, because astronomy and astrology used to be one and the same. Because when they studied the stars, they looked to the stars for signs and patterns and anticipation of what to expect. Medical doctors were always astrologers for the longest time. And it's really only broken apart in the last couple hundred years. And we really haven't seen the two, how they're together, because astronomy is the study of the position of the stars, and astrology is the study of the signs of the stars and the information that it has for us as humans here on Earth. Like, how the heavens impact us is what astrology is.
Yeah, I love that. And it really just, it's that divine pattern that happens at birth, right? It's like that divine stamp is like, okay, here you go. This is your experience. Here's your gifts, here's your challenges. And it really is there in the birth chart. And it blows my mind how much again, I'm going to use the word validation. Oh, dog, please don't bark. Sorry, I saw him ran. I'm just hoping it's not the FedEx ran early today. Hopefully it's not UPS because he will lose his mind. But seeing the validation of the struggles that I've had, seeing the validation of the gifts that I have, seeing the validation of the way I operate, like it's all in there. And there's still more to discover because I'm sure you're still discovering stuff and you've been studying this for years. Like there's so many layers and so many things that you can learn from. And it's just amazing. It's so good. So I'd like you to address kind of the difference between like kind of light-filled astrology and your stereotypical pop culture astrology. Like what are some of the main points of differences?
Absolutely. So if you're going to just learn astrology, if you Google, like, I want to learn astrology, you're going to get a whole lot of like a mix of different people's opinions. And there's usually like a witchy vibe, kind of an undertone to it. And it has this very much like, if you talk about God, you're weird, is really the more standard. Like, it's like, no, this is the place where we don't talk about God, is usually what I find when I'm like in large astrology groups and things like that. If you go in there and you're like, I was having a conversation with God while I was looking at my natal chart, you'd get like a lot of weird stares, right? And so it's just not as accepted, even though I think that there's a lot of people that believe in a higher power. They believe in a divine presence bigger than themselves. And yet it's not really, you don't see the two melded together. And so I had been teaching astrology for a little while and doing a bunch of sessions. And I was just sitting there one day and God was like, so just so you know, what you do is called light-filled astrology. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That like encompasses the distinction, because it was like, how do I reference right out the gate what is different about this? And to me, what light filled means is it is filled with light, like from within. It's just completely filled with light, and light is intelligence, and it's love and peace, and it's the divine energy in something. And when you illuminate something with light, imagine an object in a room that's dark. You can't see the object. You can't see anything going on with it. Everything is shadow everywhere, and there's no ability to discern what you're actually looking at. Now, if you have a dimly lit light, you can kind of see some things, but the shadows are going to be really exaggerated, and you're going to have a lot of confusion about what is actually happening. And if you fill the room with light, if light is coming in from every side, you could walk around the object and see every angle of it and have it reveal to you what you're actually looking at. And that's what light-filled astrology is that you're illuminating the entire chart. You're illuminating your entire self. And so every angle you're looking at it, you're like, what's right about this that I'm not seeing? Where is the gift here? Am I living in shadow? Is there just not enough light in my life in this area? Have I been hiding it? Have I been taking this aspect of myself and saying, I don't want anybody to see this because I don't like it? And it's there. You've been hiding those parts of yourself your whole life. We all have. And in the chart, you can see. And I've had people run their charts and they're like, oh, I hate that I have, like this moon sign, like that's my mother's sun sign. And I hate, like, I can't stand Aquariuses, or I can't stand Aries or whatever. And it's like, they're like, I'm safe, I'm a Gemini. But then they're like, oh, I have an Aries moon. And they're just like, ah. And so it's like, cool. Now we get to go in with a lot more light and a lot more compassion, because the truth is that all of us have a beef with at least one sign, because we have somebody in our life that was super terrible and we got it locked in our head. We're like, that person is a Scorpio and they're the devil. And I hate all Scorpios, right? And so what light-filled astrology does is you really step back and you look at all the positives and negatives of all the signs of what's really there. And I can't tell you how many times in every cohort, somebody's like, this was so helpful. I had no idea. Like, my husband is this and he drives me crazy, and I didn't see all the positives in him. All I've been seeing is the negatives, or whatever, right? And especially when you see that you have that energy in yourself that you've been hating so much in another, it's like, oh, can't ignore it anymore. So just flooding it with light brings in the room for the compassion too, because every single trait that you have that you don't like about yourself, without fail, is tied to a massive gift that you have the volume turned up too loud or too quiet. And that is the reason why it's not expressing well, is because it's just not in balance.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that I also love about your approach is that you're not being predictive. And I think that that's where astrology gets confusing for a lot of people, where people are, you're reading your horoscope of like, hey, you're going to find your love in the next 7 days. And you're like, well, bring it on if you're single or whatever, and so I love that what you teach, and you actually have a sign in our code of conduct, is you're like, this is not predictive. Mm-hmm. And it's not prescriptive either. It really is just it's interpreting the pattern that you came to this world, that was imprinted the moment you were born. And that's why that birth time is so important. So any thoughts or comments about that? Because
yes,
I know we have a question too.
Yes, I love this. So like, as you're talking, it's like, yes, you're able to see like what's actually there, and you can do the healing work. Like I have so many healers that are drawn to my program, not because they wanted to be an astrologer, but because they're like, oh, I can see how integrating this neutral bit of true information about this person that is incredibly complex helps us to just map it out. Like you can see, okay, what's your relationship between your sun and your moon sign? Do they have easy harmony? Do they know how to talk to each other? Are they in conflict all the time? Are they opposing each other? These are fundamental things that as healers, you can get right to the heart of it. And you can be like, well, no wonder you're sick all the time. Or like, no wonder your relationship feels like it's like you're walking on a razor's edge, because if your moon and your Venus are squaring each other, you feel this tension between, I can have my own personal intimate relationship with myself, or I can have my intimate relationship with you, but to integrate both is too much tension. And so until you heal both sides of it, you're perpetually going to be shoving away love, either in a committed relationship or struggle to even get into the committed relationship, where maybe your sister has her moon and her Venus are sextile each other. So it's really easy for her to get into a relationship. And so just understanding like, oh, here is the definition of why this thing has repeated again and again and again in my life. And I keep trying to do it like this other person, and it doesn't work because it's right there. So just it can integrate into just about any kind of coaching or healing or support, business coaching, interior decorating, like anything you can imagine where you go in and you're integrating with somebody's energy. This will completely powerfully elevate it to a whole other level and infuse you as the coach or the healer or the mentor with confidence that you're like, well, we now have something to really go off of here.
Yeah. And I love that. And that's definitely what I've gleaned from this, is like, you get this glimpse into their true self and even if I'm not 100% understanding everything yet, right? Like I'm still new, but I can get a glimpse and I can say, okay, like, and have my intuition, like, okay, this area is probably what we're really struggling with. And then incorporate that knowledge with my other modalities. And so it's just, it really is a great, brings in a harmony. I don't know. I'm like asset. I'm short for words here, but to anything, it really is. So Ashley has a question. She says, I'm still confused on what it means to worship the stars versus looking to the stars. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever we worship something, we pour devotion into it and we hold it up as a higher power. We put it on a pedestal. Like if you've ever seen somebody worship another person, like just like worship the ground that they walk on, like they place them above everything else. The priority is there. There's almost like a putting aside of the self to focus on whatever the object of worship is, which is like, that's how I approach my great and powerful God. And that to me feels like an appropriate dynamic because that's my relationship with God. But to worship anything else, to worship another human or an idea like astrology or a system like astrology, that is a misplacement of the energy. So looking to the stars as signs that God created keeps God as the point of worship, and understanding God as this benevolent, loving being says, here are all of these things you can look at. You can listen to the systems of your body. You can understand that when you eat this thing and you feel kind of bleh, like that's your body's way of communicating to you and saying, please don't eat this thing anymore, right? And there's so many systems that God has given us to be able to guide and govern ourselves to just be happier. And astrology is one of them. You don't have to know astrology to have a good life, but for me, it's been one of the pretty much the shortest route to understanding what my good life is going to look like and be constructed of, instead of trying to pattern myself after other people's good lives or my perception of their good life. And it's helped me.
That second statement is probably more true, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like if I know anything in this world as people, God gave me gifts to be able to study people well. I call myself a social scientist. I know many people resonate with that. And I've just studied people my whole life. And so just trying to understand relationships and intricacies. And I can show you like 15 things in my chart that will explain why I am the way that I am. Yep. And it gave me permission to stop feeling shame over it and to stop trying to be something that I'm not. It's like, well, drop that. That's costing way too much energy. And I'm just going to go focus myself here. And it turns out it blesses so many more people's lives when you're living true to yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it really just, it gives you, it's kind of like, it really is kind of a hack. Like when you understand and you dive deep into your chart and into that divine imprint, it just, oh my gosh, it gives you freedom. It gives you permission to be yourself. And it gives you the clues that sometimes we might be missing from other ways. Now, like you said, like, I don't think astrology is the only way to figure out whatever, but I think for some people, and I count myself in that group, it really has been enlightening and invigorating and just of God, because I am a truth seeker. And Naomi and I, our birthdays are one day apart and then a few years. And so we have that Sagittarian truth seeking energy in us. And there's truth. There's so much truth here. And the way that Naomi teaches and shares is light-filled and it's truth-filled. And that's what I really love and respected about the program, is that it never felt false. It never felt yucky or competing with my belief system. And I love that, because now that I, once you get the fire started, I'm going off in different directions, reading different books. And I can tell you, like, there's good resources out there, but it's kind of like, going through that thrift store bin, like you're having to pull out, you're like, this is truth. This is good, but nope, this needs to go. This needs to go. This needs to go. And so, you definitely are the shortcut for cutting through the crap, so to speak. So, okay. Any other questions from those watching live, or anything else you'd like to add or share, Naomi? Tell us about the program. When are you kicking off?
Right. This has been so rich. I love this discussion. I love being able to share this with the people that you've gathered. I think this is just incredible. So the program that we are talking about is the Light-Filled Elemental Astrology Certification Program. So it is a 12-week program. So it goes week by week. Each week you get content that is pre-recorded, so you can go at it at your own pace each week. And then every week, at the end of that week, we do a live Q&A. So this upcoming cohort, it starts on October 4th, so a week from today. And the live Q&As are on Tuesdays. So the content will be dropped on Wednesday morning, and then we'll do the live meetings on Tuesdays. And you will get to pre-submit your questions, and I will answer all of your questions during the live group. It's very enriching conversation. The live groups are hands down my favorite part of this, because you guys get to learn together. You have the same kind of foundation of basic information about astrology, but you're bringing all your different backgrounds and all your different questions, and being able to hear other people's questions and see me reading people's charts. Like, people will submit their charts and we'll go over it, and we'll even pull up like, okay, here's you and here's your husband. Let's see what's going on. Like, really just pull it apart. And the groups are small enough that there can be that intimacy in there, but big enough that there's a lot of diversity. And the recordings for the live groups are only available to the people within that group. So it's not like people 2 years later are going to be watching you asking your questions while you're trying to sort through something at this season of your life. Personally, I have enough Scorpio in me to be apprehensive about other people. Like, as I'm in the learning stage, I'm fine with learning and I'm fine with being vulnerable. I just want to know who I'm being vulnerable with. Like, I don't want it to just be like out for everybody. And so, the live groups will be at 1 p.m. Eastern time or 10 a.m. Pacific time every single week. Teresa had that question in the comments, and they're recorded. So if for some reason you can't make it live, you can definitely pre-submit your questions. I answer the questions from those that pre-submitted them. And I've had people that they just knew they couldn't make any of the lives, and so they just caught the recordings. I've had people that just take a lunch break and like they have like 10 minutes of time. So when they pop on, they just shoot me a message on Zoom. They're like, okay, I've got like a 15-minute window. So I'll just kind of jump to their question and answer it live, and they can watch the rest on recording. We can get creative about that because the group is small enough. It's not like there's hundreds of people in there. And so you can get that attention. And this time I have an amazing new addition. So I work with Elise Houston, is one of my very best certified astrologers. And she is on the lives with me. She's able to contribute live and actually answer questions in addition to what I have to say. She's very different than me. And so I super love that there's a completely different perspective. So you get two professional Light-Filled astrologers, and she's also following up with people throughout the week and responding to text messages and offering that really kind of hands-on one-on-one mentorship support, which is just incredible. So we incorporated that this time without increasing the price of the program, which is so fun. And so that just takes it to a whole other level. We kind of played with that with this most recent cohort, just kind of introduced it and tested it out. And it just was like hands down amazing. And so I'm constantly improving this program, and you get lifetime access. And if I do make any updates to it, if I add a whole new section or anything like that, you'll get those free forever, because I just really, really want people to have a super excellent foundation on their knowledge of astrology. So then you can take it wherever. I'm not a healer. I feel like I heal through information, and that people definitely experience healing being in my space, but I don't identify as a healer. But I love that there's so many healers taking this information and running with it, because that is amplifying the influence that this can have in a way that I could never do. So my calling is to teach Light-Filled astrology and human design, and other people's callings sync up with mine. And that's how we raise the vibration of the planet together. We're all just doing what we feel called to do, and we connect with each other, and it just grows and grows.
I love that. So tell us about the investment. Tell us about, you got some awesome payment plans, things like that.
Yes. So the entire program is $3,300, and you can pay that all up front. But yes, I was able to upgrade my payment processors just recently, where you can get in like through Affirm or Klarna. I think Afterpay is another one. There's like 4 or 5 different ways that you can make payments and like set up plans. They can break up into like 4 different interest-free payments. There's even with Affirm, you can get it as low as $115 a month, which is like bananas. For a while, I was offering the payment plans through me, and that makes me the bank, which is just a lot of extra work for me. And thankfully, everybody's been so respectful and like continue to make payments. And I'm so grateful. But that's definitely a lot of that burden was placed on me and my business. And so I just love that now I have these different payment processors, so you can just set it up however you need to, and be able to have that flexibility. And I've had so many people taking advantage of the Affirm option, this particular cohort, because it's lower payments than I could justify offering. For people that just really want to get into the program, and that they just know that this will foster into their life like all that will be helpful, because if you can understand yourself better and the people around you better, whatever is the other struggle that you're working through, like trying to get through this other program, or you're trying to follow what this business coach says, or you're trying to work on your marriage, or trying to improve your parenting, whatever is the thing that's super heavy in your life will probably be tremendously lighter if you just understood yourself and the other people involved better. And all of the sudden, something that just you couldn't work past becomes so light, and you can just whip past that and other things, because it's usually understanding or a lack of understanding that it is at the core of everything. My top 3 innate drivers or core values is truth, understanding, and impact. And I feel like that's just written all over this program. It's like, we're going to shed truth and light, and we're going to understand deeply, and it's going to have huge impact on you and everybody around you, because I can't not do things in a really impactful way. Like you were saying, other programs were just kind of, and this one is just amazing. I have a Virgo moon and a Virgo midheaven, and I just can't help myself. Whatever I do is going to be the highest standard you're going to find.
Yeah, you do. Everything you do is top notch. You also get, like, this is she gives you a digital copy of her Light-Filled Astrology program. It's in there under all my Post-it notes. But I literally I printed mine out, and because I have a little fancy fun binder, but I use this thing all the time. And like, there's just, it really, just like you said, like wherever the struggle is in your life, like this will help, because it sheds light on all areas and all sides. And it really helps you to not have blinders on. Cause I think that a lot of times, even with other healing modalities, like working on yourself can be good, but there's typically blind spots. But with this, it's like, it's hard to hide in that birth chart. And you're like, oh, okay, now I can see why I'm struggling with that. And it's just, there's some hard truths, but half the problem is recognizing what the problem actually is. And I think
it's just the perspective too. Like, yeah. I have a Virgo moon, but I'm a Sagittarius. And so that means like my outer self is very dynamic and fun. And like, let's just buy a ticket on the next flight out of here and bring my toothbrush and it'll all work out. Like, right. Like that's Sag. Like let's just, that confidence of like, I can just do whatever and it's going to be amazing. And then my Virgo is like, but details and plans and like, did we recheck and all the things? So like I have both of those. And so I really deeply did not love the Virgo moon part of me, because everybody loves a happy Sag. So like that part was accepted, but that inner part of me that was like kind of OCD and constantly criticizing everybody around me, especially myself, like I just kept trying to hide her. And so with astrology, that like came out to the light and it finally had definition. And I was like, and I still hated that part of myself. And over time, because I could see like, okay, Virgo moon, this has a lot of benefit too. And I really slowly went through it. I was able to get to a place where I loved that part of myself, not just tolerated, but really like, I love my Virgo moon now. She's amazing. And like, because I love that so much in myself, through being single, I found somebody who could love that part of me too, because I could allow him to see it. And I think the most sexy romantic thing that he says to me is sometimes he'll just look at me when I'm being super OCD about something and just a little crazy that like nobody gets to see in my life except for him and a few others. He just looks at me and goes, I love your Virgo moon. And I'm like, like, and that like, that's not a romantic thing in every relationship, but it is in ours. And so to be able to deeply love your partner in the way that they need to be loved is like the best.
It is. And oh gosh, it's helped me understand my husband a lot more, because we're very, very opposite, but this has given me so many insights. And with my kids, like I could literally go on and on all the good stuff and blessings that has brought into my life. It's helped me with spiritual stuff. Like I've been going through some spiritual stuff and just seeing that that's part of it. Like it helps me have the tools and the confidence that I need to keep going forward, or to keep going in a certain direction, or to trust this, because I know that that's in me. And you can, if there's a part of you that you're like, I don't love my moon or whatever sign, like there's beauty in all of it. And there's gifts and all that, and there's challenges and all that, but you can choose to focus on the good, right? And redefine it and shift your perspective and understanding. And I just, oh, it's so good. Like Naomi, I could just sit here and talk.
I know we can talk for hours and hours. People would be like, well, at least they're having fun.
But I will reiterate again, like this program, it is worth every single dime. And I'm very grateful she did payment plans before they were super easy, because it made it so that I could do it in an affordable way. And it wasn't, I didn't even get the, like, a firm is like a little over $100. Like that's doable. That's like even if there's like a little interest on there, like that's so doable.
Especially to justify as a business expense. Cause it's like, oh yeah, you could totally get an extra 1 or 2 clients a month to cover this. Like 100%.
Easy. And it really will. First off, it's going to enrich yourself. Like it is going to help you become a better version of yourself and a better understanding and more empathetic towards yourself. And it's going to help you with those that are closest to you. And you literally, like now I can't watch TV. I can't go to church and listen to people talk. I can't go anywhere without like, I wonder what they're saying. Oh, they probably have a moon or whatever. Like they're probably a Scorpio ascendant. Like
might be the biggest drawback of the program.
Like not everybody wants to hear about what signs they are. So you do learn how to tamper that down a bit.
Learning to manage it. That's why I'm always like Googling celebrities charts and stuff while watching shows and everything. And because I'm just so curious. I just want to understand.
It is. It really, it helps you understand. And honestly, for me, it was funny. I think it was church or something. And I looked up their birthday or something. And I was like, was someone that just was rubbing me the wrong way. And when I looked at the chart, I don't even remember if it was male or female. I don't even remember who it was, but it was like, I get them now.
Oh,
and it was just like, and it probably wasn't because I didn't know their birth time or their birth location, but it was enough of a glimpse to give me a new level of understanding and empathy that I think our initial judgment can sometimes block. So it's 100%. Such a valuable tool.
Definitely.
Okay. Any parting words for us?
Thank you so much for letting me share this. I just know that those who need to be in this program will be in this program, and it'll be the right time, and they'll just know, like you did, like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. Whether you knew you were looking for astrology or knew you were looking for something else to integrate with what you're already doing. And Nicole will drop the link in the comments for you guys to be able to get all of the details and sign up.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. I always love chatting with you. And I can't wait for your next cohort. Like, that's awesome.
I'm
excited for the new people to learn. It's like, oh yeah, you can learn all this stuff. So it's amazing. Such a gift. Thank you, Naomi.
You bet. Bye, Nicole.
Hey, bye guys.